Right. Great question. Great question, really. So two parts of it, part of this question. One is past, one is future. Right. I'll answer the past one first. Was it? So why did I get into this? So I did not change my career. Right. I made this decision of getting into financial services when I was in college. Right. So I was, yes, I was doing Java and Python, all of that for placements and all. But that was always secondary because I was, yes, I was doing the assignments. I had a very good CGPA as well, by the way, in college. So I was doing all of that, but at the same time, I was also getting learning skills that I need for financial services. For example, the modeling, the skills that I mentioned, right? The financial modeling, being good in quant, knowing what financial markets do. So when you sit in your financial services interviews, it's not just what you have learned. If anything comes into news today, let's say some prices go up or down, you need to know that. And what does that affect? It's in the newspapers just 1 hour before your interview time. Right? You need to have some analysis on that. So it is all of that. So I did not change my career. I made a decision, I think in my third year of engineering, that I'll go into this field. And that is when I started acquiring the required skills. At the same time being also, focused on my college, thinking about my CGPA, thinking about coding and all those stuff. Projects, yes, I also did projects on machine learning, artificial intelligence. I also coded in Python. I also worked on Anaconda, right? I have done that, been there, all of that. But it was always my this thing that I have to work, right? That is first part of the answer. Second is, if I get, let's say, get a role in consulting, will I join that? It's all perspectives, guys. It's all perspective. There's not one definite answer to that. I might say that no, I will not. I will want to continue within this. You might say you want to do that. It just depends on, let's say, how much do you think consulting is a better career than finance, or finance better? It's all about perspectives. No right or wrong answer. It all depends on individual cases, individual choices, preferences, etc.
Thank you, sir. Your insights on how attitude and belief impact work environment, how challenges can lead us to new opportunities, and importantly, about adapting to new work culture depending on the domains, field, city, overcoming the respective challenges were some value adding points to today's webinar. Thank you once again, Mr. Vatsal, for sharing with us your perspectives on work culture.
Thanks all. Been a pleasure.
Now, we would like to have Mr. Shri Vallabha Kulkarni. He's a senior GM and head of IT product development in Mahindra and Mahindra Limited. Before joining Mahindra, he was a part of Tata Group and did major projects with Ferrari, GM, Chrysler, JLR, and Tata Motors in the area of engineering, IT, and enterprise. Mr. Kulkarni sir has 25 years of information technology business and PN leadership with key IT service accounts, product development, digital transformation across multiple auto global OEMs in APAC, EUs, and NA, and US state agencies. I would now like to call Mr. Kulkarni sir to cast light on today's topic with his valuable experience in the industry. Over to you, sir.
So thank you very much to SRM and also to the madam for calling me for this seminar. And also Angad and Vatsal have covered almost all the kind of a industry work cultures which usually happens, and also the kind of a challenges usually people face, and they have given a very good insight. So in fact, I'm left with very less to speak. So let us see how it goes. I'll share my screen. Let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes, sir. Your screen is visible.
Is it coming on a full screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So also, first of all, congratulations to SRM, because recently they got a membership and became a IEI student chapter they opened. And I think that is a very good move from the institution perspective. So I think as a part of my introduction, you guys have covered, but just to touch upon, because I worked for most of the time with the Tata Group and last 7 years with Mahindra Group. So when you see the on the left side, the companies where I worked, and also the below that, the education kind of a thing which I gone through. Even though I started my career with the Tata Group after my graduation as a mechanical engineer, but in between around 2007-8, company put me into a kind of a management level trainings through Tata GEMS, that is an internal institution. And recently in 2019, again, I got an executive MBA from SPJMR. And why the gap from the engineering to the first level of masters in business, and then again to the next level through SPJMR? See, that is where the change comes in picture, okay? Because we start our career thinking that we will do these things, and these are our objectives as a part of our career. And while you are on a track of that one, you will hit some crossroads, and then you have to take a decision like which way you want to go. It can be a technical pathway, it can be a managerial, it can be something else, right? Like getting into a kind of a startups or venturing into your own business, something like that. And that is where the gap comes in, right? What we learned and what additional delta we need to learn, and the learning is always a continuous process. So the organizations wherever you work going forward, they will also have a kind of a learning path, because they tune us to an extent so that we can start delivering to the much more value addition which organizations are looking at. So that is what I just wanted to show here. So so now moving on, and also if you look at the work culture, right? Already I think Vatsal talked about work culture in different regions. And when you really physically go and work with them, the kind of a from the language to the work culture to the body languages, what they use, everything changes, right? And then what we make a gesture may not be the appropriate one, or the way we speak English may not be so understandable to some of the European guys or the Japanese guys or something. So how to slow down on how to make sure that they understand, and we also understand what they are saying. And if you take an Indian context, whenever somebody talks, we say yes, yes, yes. It doesn't, and they think that Americans or Europeans think that when we say yes, they think that we understood and we agreed for that. And actually we Indians, when we say yes, yes means I'm listening or I'm trying to understand. We never commit to that test. So these are the kind of a gaps which keeps on coming. So those need to be keep documented, and kind of a agreement need to be arrived at the end of the meetings or something, that this is how you should look at, and what you told and what we understood, and how we are going to proceed down the line. So that is on. So there are many more. The region related cultural differences will come in when you guys get into your career path and grow, because in the end you have to work for 30-35 years in different industries. And if I look at the clients, right, I work for almost all the global OEMs. So that is a Chrysler or GM, Fiat, Ferrari, Jaguar, Land Rover, Mahindra, Tata Motors, and all. And each business unit or each automotive OEM is having its own different culture. Okay. So for example, if I take when we were part of Tata Motors, we acquired Jaguar Land Rover. And Jaguar Land Rover culture was entirely a Ford culture, because it was a part of the Ford, which is an American company. And now tuning those guys, which Europeans, they only work for 4.5 days, and some countries even just work for 4 days. And one of the senior most guy from Tata Group was planning to visit on Friday. Half of the office was empty in Jaguar Land Rover. And it is, you cannot say that he is coming and they have to be there, but it is a culture, and how to make sure that also we also plan our things accordingly, so that in the end the right marriage happens between the entities, and then the synergy establishes. So we'll quickly move on. And on the top of that is a technology. Even though I started my career as a Oracle domain expert, but over the years, the many technologies came in picture, and how you should be frugal in shifting to your mindset to a different technology. Because in the end, it is not that my objective to be met. Okay, I as an individual will come in the last, because we work for an entity, and the what is that business objective that business unit or the business company is driving, and that is the core objective. And keeping that in mind, and assume that you are a part of a IT or a IT services, or you are a part of a IT product development, or you are a part of kind of a some value chain function within that organization, then you have to map your business objective, your departmental objectives or a functional objectives to the business objective. Because in the end, business objective is very simple, right? They have to make money, or we have to make money. And if I take Mahindra, we want to sell maximum vehicles, we want to sell maximum tractors, we want to cut cost of ownership, there should be less insurance coverage, and parts should have a good warranty, so that that the defects will be less. So like that, in the end, it's a customer experience which we want to drive. And keeping that business objective, you have to trace back and see that what kind of a product you have to bring in, what kind of a supply chain, or how you are going to develop the components, what kind of a cost structure you have to have. Because in the end, the key stakeholders are your shareholders. Okay, and I think Vatsal was talking about the share market and how it fluctuates. So the same thing happens, right? Then people look at quarterly results, and external analysts especially, they are the ones who actually get the outside in information about what is happening in the organization, and that is how the market goes up and down for each company. So keeping those aspects in the end, we have to give the result which is expected and meets the business objectives. So individually, we have to contribute. And why I showed this slide is it is a too heavy slide, and it was actually not meant to be shown in today's thing. But as a culture, as a work culture changes over the years, and same thing won't remain. And we have to be flexible, and change management is one of the predominant aspect of you guys life going forward also. And just keep that one pointer right now. So now how do now coming to the general trend, how do we understand the work culture, right? So one is like nowadays we go through the social media, what is happening in that sector, in that industry. We hear from the colleagues, we hear from the friends. We watch the market leaders, right? The business leaders, what Ratan Tata is saying, what Anand Mahindra is saying, what Ambani is talking about. Where is that guy visiting Elon Musk? What is his next move? All these kind of things we keep watching, right? And we keep listening. The from the also from your friends, from the market indicators. Even though as a student, you might be just started watching the stock markets. It's always good to look at the core blue chip companies and keep watching on those things. That also gives a lot of trend. And if you do a kind of a little bit deep dive, it will give the kind of a culture what they adopt. And also you can search on great places to work, and if you get into a great places to work, you will understand how actually the industry evaluate the places of different companies on what kind of a parameters, and where the company or the sector you are looking at and where they stand. And in each sector, only will be very few companies which will be doing very well. So you need to understand that also. Like education, right? Like the current session, or as a part of their normal teaching curriculum, they also give a lot of insights about the different HR functions, or employee relation functions, and how the things are happening. So that is another way of looking at. And also you can observe through the business schools what is the trend happening. And there are many more other ways, and so that is how the industry culture comes into picture. And just taking that thread further, it is not that the way IT for banking works is not the same way it works in the manufacturing industry, or it is not in the oil and gas industry, or in the metal industry, or in startups, or in tourism, or in aviation. And there is a cultural difference, okay? Because as a most of you are computer, I believe, are computer science students, but in the end, either you will be working for a product development, IT product development, or a IT product for some organization, or you will getting into a kind of a IT services, and you have to serve the business needs of those customers, or those business units. So if I take my example, I am part of the automotive and farm sector. So my role predominantly as a IT services is to make sure that we come out the world-class products using the best IT technologies and IT solutions. But if you look at the startups, the startup culture is entirely different, right? A very small team, concurrent engineering, they sit together in the same room, they make quick decisions, and they move on. But at some moment, some startups, okay, not all startups, some startups may become kind of a unicorn or $1 billion valuation companies. And when somebody starts putting a money into those kind of a startups, you need to come out with a kind of a world-class processes, technologies, and people, and to manage that and sustaining that in the long run. That is where again the culture comes into picture, and what kind of a culture they adopt. Some organizations look at flat organizational structures, and some organizations are very hierarchical. Startups, anybody can go and talk to CEOs, COOs, or CTOs and all, but in the organizations like us, which is very hierarchical but well defined, you have to have the kind of a bottom-up approach in some cases for the younger generation to get into a kind of a mid-level discussions and higher level discussions. So it varies, and if you look at the same thing happens with if you look at a IT service, what will happen in steel manufacturing, right? And the entire business industry itself is different. You have to get, fun is steel industry means you have to have a good raw material, right? And you are going to set up your plant where the raw materials are usually nearby, and to get the raw material converted into a world-class metal, whether it's a steel or aluminum or something, then you will invest huge amount of money in the process, and then you look at the customers, who can be anybody, right? It can be whoever are going to consume the metal are the customers. So getting the customer is another channel. So there, as a IT enablement or a IT service will be entirely different, okay? So in nutshell, what is important is like, where are you getting into? Okay, it is not that you should not go to the startups, or it is not that you should not go to the financial sector or automotive sector, or into a kind of a product development, or into a kind of a research or education. But what is more important is you need to understand how they work and how the organization is, and you have to do some kind of a because as large or the and nowadays these are very well defined processes. They make sure that whenever somebody joins, they are into the team from day one, and they make sure that they have a good buddies, they have a mentor allocated. They keep them happy by talking to them on a regular basis, trying to understand their personal problems and their work-related problems and all. But in the end, you guys need to decide where you guys want to go, and that is one of the trigger here. Okay. This I just picked up from some internet site, but what I want to highlight is the 3C concept. One is capacity, capability, and competencies. Okay, and as a industry sectors or the business, when we want to hire somebody or we want to train somebody, no, we would definitely look at the three things, right? One is what kind of a competency that person is going to bring in, or what kind of a competency we have a gap as an organization and we have to build in. And keeping that in mind, there will be trainings, there will be the lateral hirings, all those things will happen. The second thing is you got a big project, and it is a management direction that just if to take an example, like the automotive industry is moving towards from ICE, the internal combustion engine, into a kind of a EV technologies, right? And tomorrow says that we want to launch EVs. Do we have capability, competency, and capacity, right? All these three things is currently a challenge in India. Okay, and two-wheelers are making some good move right now, but still, as from the three-wheelers, four-wheelers, and heavy vehicles, there is still a challenge, and everybody is trying to work out on that one. And each business unit is investing heavily on these kind of things. So now it is, if you are as a student, if you are looking at, you want to get into a kind of a EV, then what is that you should have? Because one of the thing which industry will definitely expect is competencies. Okay, and to get into a competency, it is the right time to you guys use your labs. Okay, as I know, as SRM has invested a lot of money on most of the labs, so that is the IT or a cloud platforms or from the EV related things or all those things. And the general trend in any colleges, when we talk and try to understand, very few people take the advantage of the labs available or the infrastructure available with the colleges. And you guys need to map. You may have another 2 years to study or 1.5 years to study. And if you start mapping your competencies and try to look at what is coming up, that is going to help. And on top of that, industry will train, but getting ready and standing in the front row of this, in the end, everything is a rat race. Okay, and where you guys will end up, it all depends on your attitude, your collaborative approaches, your agility, your boldness, all those things. But at least you can take up, if not the first row, at least take the second row while running the race. Okay. So these three things, C's are very important, and whenever you try to do something, look at least the capabilities and competencies to improve. Because we as an organization, we look at all the threes, whether do we have a capacity, capability, and competencies. If I want to take another example here is like India moved from BS4 to BS6, automotive example, the emission norms, right? It came suddenly 4 years back. Government announced within next 18 to 20 months, you guys have to be on BS6, which is almost kind of equivalent to Euro 6 norms. And India never had a luxury of going from, we had a luxury of going to BS3 to BS4, but not to the BS5. Okay, and government put a norm that we have to be in BS6, which is a huge transition, and that affects everything. Okay, it not only affects your product development, because your engines need to be changed, and to change engine, your supplier ecosystem need to be changed, and your fuel need to be changed. What Indian Oil or HPCL, BPCL gives, that has to come in a different standard. And those after doing the engine development, those engines need to be run on the actual vehicles, right? Whether they are trucks or your XUVs or your cars, whatever it is, and they have to be certified by SRMIST. And then only you can launch, and the whole time frame was 18 months. And for the Indian OEMs like Mahindra, Tata Motors, Ashok Leyland, all, we are India grown companies, right? Indian origin global companies, but who came from outside, like European companies or Japanese companies, Euro 6 was not a big challenge, but still how the Indian companies could adopt to that change and came out successfully. And in fact, they are selling much more vehicles than the others. Is a kind of a change management, and because of that change, basically, you ended up in changing the work culture internally, and to change that culture, we face many challenges, but those challenges have been addressed. So we have to be more agile and frugal. Otherwise, you cannot make money, right? You have to meet the deadlines, and you have to sell vehicles. So now I'll touch upon the customer journey of automotive quickly. I won't spend much time here, but just for the sake of awareness, the top line is as an end user. You if you want to buy a car or a vehicle, and how you will start, right? In the end, as we OEMs, we start bringing the awareness. Then you people get into kind of a medias and try to do some study. You will go to Team BHP, you go to different magazines and read that one. In the end, you may end up with a dealer or a kind of an online experience, and then you purchase a vehicle, and then it goes for a usage, serviceability, all those things. That itself is a customer experience, is a large digital transformation journey in automotive industry, especially in India, currently happening, and that's where they are trying to bring in lot of seamlessness. Your buying experience, you are buying your insurance online, buying accessories, and making sure that you get a test drive on time, all those things. But on one side, you want to buy a vehicle, but on the other side, like where my team works, that is a product development or a R&D. We actually start working on those products almost 4 years behind the scene, and that is the time when we start deciding what kind of a features and functions my vehicle should have. Who are my benchmarkings? So in which segment and which category I'm going to put it and price it? What kind of a target customers we are looking at? All those many more aspects will come in, and while doing that one, you have to bring your factory such that they should be accommodated on the existing manufacturing lines. Then you have to align your supply chain, because 80% of the car parts comes from the outside, and then it gets merged with the sales experience and moves on. And just to give the example here, like we have launched XUV 700 6 months back, and it came up with so much of a features and functions, right? It has a lot of level 1 or 1.5 kind of autonomous features, like driverless. It's not exactly driverless, but it has an adaptive cruise control. It traces the track and moves on along the road. It detects the vehicle, it brakes automatically, it speeds up. So many more features along with all other competitive high-end vehicles, like compared to BMW, Benz, which they used to offer at double the price. We are offering them at the half of the price. So those features were visualized almost 3.5 years back. Okay, and that's where we were working. And while doing this visualization, that what kind of a product you have to bring in at some stage, like you take a 24 months before, or initial pilot vehicles will be ready. Okay, those pilots will be very few vehicles, but they have to run on the road. So make sure that everything works properly. So now you want to run your vehicle, and you are bringing so much of a connected car features, right? So now the IoT comes into picture, because your car will have a lot of loggers and lot of sensors and GPS and internet connectivity, and it starts sending tons of data to internet, right? Because it sends to internet and it comes back to your server somewhere, and then the quick decisions happens on that, what is to be done, what is not to be done. And some features will be like edge computing. They will be there in the car, and some decisions will be taken. For example, lane assistance, right? It will have a small computer, and it will make a decision quickly that whether you have to brake or not to brake, those kind of things. So so the why I was telling is, in the end, is work culture, and work culture in organization is different, and work culture individually in your department will also be different. Okay. Being working in a R&D, the culture will be entirely different. Working in a customer experience or a customer care, where you are directly facing a end customer who bought a vehicle and comes up with a defect, the way you have to deal with him is entirely different. The marketing aspects will be different. Your finance guys will work culture will be different. Your supply chain, where they have to work with lot of sourcing and vendor teams, their culture will be different, and plant culture will be different, because they have to work in a different way. And making sure that the right blend and the right mix happens with these cultures. So in industry, usually what happens is it is not that if you start from R&D, you will retire in R&D. It is not that, okay? Because organization tend to rotate the people, so that they want their people know multiple different cultures and move in the ladder. Okay, so that is one of the key aspects. So why I'm saying is, like, if we are thinking that I'm going to do only the product development in software, it may not be the case in the long run. Okay, so we have to be adaptive to the kind of a culture which organization asks us to do. I'll quickly move to the next one. Okay, I think this will, again, I'll give a quick example on the industry Internet of Things. Since you guys are all IT guys or software guys, no? The left portion, which is basically a value chain of organization. Okay, and this you will learn later, I think, somewhere in your education. But when you try to look at what is the core business, who is going to earn the money for you, okay, and what are the things need to be done in the organization to make organization earn money. So those will come as a primary functions. Okay, primary functions. So don't worry about this example, but there will be primary functions, and then there will be supporting functions. Okay, infrastructures, or the HR team development, some of the technologies, procurement. This is one example I have taken, but based on the sector or the industry or a OEM or a supplier, no, this kind of a value chain changes. Okay, you need to understand that one. And since we are looking at the making the plants, okay, Indian manufacturing plants, usually, there is no new plant is coming up in the country. Most of them are are brownfield plants. Okay, they are already there, and we are trying to add on top of that some additional shops, so that we meet the market demand. And very few companies like Ola and all, they have put up a greenfield plant, but soon they will become a brownfield plant, because at some stage, you're not putting a plant for just for 5 years or 10 years, right? You are going to use those plants for 25, 30 years or more than that. So now the challenge in this case is all brownfield plants, but how to move towards the industry 4.0 kind of a revolution, which is kind of an Internet of Things, right? Industry Internet of Things. So now, so you need to look at what kind of a machines are there, what kind of a machines are there competitive to pull the data out from those machines, or they stand alone. So what is that additional change we need to bring in? Do you need to put a kind of a industry Wi-Fi, not right now 5G, but industry Wi-Fi, so that your shop is protected from internet threats or external threats, and still you can gather the data. And because in the end, Internet of Things is connected things, and you need to pull the data. If you don't have a data, then there's no point. So those kind of approaches. So that is where the industry is changing, and I just wanted to highlight here, because there is a scope of legacy migrations. Okay, legacy things are getting migrated to latest technology, and latest technology cannot replace as it is from the day one. Whether it is moving a data center from on-premises to cloud, okay, it won't happen overnight. Okay, in fact, moving any application to cloud is a additional cost, because you are going to consume the service from the cloud provider, and you are not going to dismantle the existing data center. So it is almost kind of a 1 or 2 times cost. and slowly that will mature. And cloud to cloud integration, still they are not clear, right? Amazon to Google to Azure and other things. So there are also challenges. And then assume that all the clouds are aligned, but softwares are not aligned, because software OEMs have developed their own applications, and that is their IP. They want to protect their licensing. So now how to get there? So it's a transition happening in the industry. It will happen, but again, this is where the industry work culture is going to change, and there are challenges, but work cultures are going to change. We have to be in an adaptive mode. This is another example of connected car. I'll just say one thing here. Assume that your car and it's running on a road, and it will have hundreds of sensors. And like for us, like our eyes, ears, and nose are the kind of a sense organs, right? By seeing something on the front wheel, we say that, okay, there is somebody crossing the road, I need to press the brake, right? So you think and you act, you press the brake. But now how the system will do that? Or you hit a crossroad and you have to take a left turn, right turn, or you have to go straight. So currently, basically the human takes that decision, but slowly that is getting changed into a kind of a automated, right? Autonomous vehicle kind of a thing. So basically, in the end, where the industry is heading towards is vehicle to vehicle dialogues, or the data information exchange is going to happen. 5G is coming up, so that will give a lot of bandwidth and make quicker decisions. And vehicle to anything can have a kind of a thing, like if a cow comes in between the road, what we will do? We brake, right? So those kind of a things. So there are end-to-end kind of a relation, and end-to-end kind of a relation in a moving vehicle. Even if it runs for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, it is going to generate huge amount of data. Okay, and huge amount of data. So what is that means? One is like you have a scope to work on these kind of autonomous technologies. You can work on a analytics, business analytics, or engineering analytics. You can write your own packaged products and bring it to the market. So the opportunities are huge, and how you are going to encash that one, because industry is also learning and people are also learning, but quicker one succeeds. Okay. And again, I want to highlight here is emphasize is that you have a world-class labs, and please you start thinking of your use cases. Okay, because in the end, you have to look from the industry, what is that is changing, and what is that they are looking at, and what is that you guys need to, and be ready to face the corporate world. And most of the product OEMs, whether they are hardware OEMs or they are software OEMs, they set up the labs in the colleges, and if you use them and start doing some kind of a small pilots, whether they succeed or fail, that is immaterial. But that gives you a lot of confidence and take you to a kind of a next level when you get out of the college. Yeah. So now I think I'll finish quickly. I don't know how much time I have. So the thing is, we as an individual students or the even it is applicable to me also, is basically we say that I'm a left side. My left side brain works. I'm more analytical. And some guys say I'm creative and only my right side of the brain works, but industry will look as a whole brain. Okay, and when we are making any sort of a decision, we need to give time to both sides, and we have to think from the both aspects of left and right, and then make the decision. So we have to start practicing putting the complete brain or a whole brain, and start you start training your brain towards that one. I can give more examples here, but because of the time thing, no, I'm just skipping. Then the multiplier. I think both Angad and Vatsal have touched on this one. Like, you people need to be collaborative. You need people need to talking to the many people. So when we get out, right, when we are even in the college also, as a student also, this is applicable, and when you are working in an organization, that's applicable. Basically, what it says is like, you are going to work with your manager, you have to work with your team, you have to work with your co-workers, with customers, with family members, and many more. Okay. And we should not be thinking that I'm comfortable working with manager, but I'm not comfortable with customer, or I'm comfortable with co-worker, but not some of my team members. So we should not be complaining that I have a challenge, but rather than that, make that as your advantage and reach out to them, like where you have a need a support or something from your manager or a co-worker or a team member, and be open and talk to them. And the moment you start collaborating, no, it gives you, one is lot of confidence on one side, and second side is for the organization, because in the end we are working for an organization, they are paying for us. Okay. And by making this one, like, we can bring a multiplier effect or a kind of a boost, what we used to give one time to a kind of a 1.x time kind of a advantage to the organization. So this is a multiplier effect. So keep working with your friends, colleagues, teachers, and others, and for the right cause. Okay, for the right cause, and use that. This is I think you guys can Google and find out what is this elephant story. And as you know, elephant can lift tons of load, but still that when it was under training, or when it put under the cage, and it gets tortured for 4 months or 6 months, I think, and they put a small chain or a kind of a rope during that time, and not during that time, they properly tie it, and they train it actually. And in the end, it tries to pull out, but it never succeeds because it is so tightly tied. And when they release that and put a small chain after 8 months or 1 year, the elephant still feels that it is tied. So for us, the how we have to take it is like, we have a fear of failure or a fear of asking something, and so don't worry about that one. Come out of that fear and take advantage of the whole mind, and also working with the multiplier effect. And actually, no, in the end, the more you open up and ask, that there will be more people to help you, and that is how people will be distinctly recognized in the teams and the organizations. So come out of that effect of fear. Okay. This is two pictures are here, and there are 4 trees and 1 person and 1 dog. And the thing is whether our mind is full or we are mindful. Okay. And the same picture, how this person sees and how the dog sees. Okay. And we are so much occupied, our brain is so much of an occupied thing with things, that we may lose the focus. Okay. And we may lose the time to enjoy the thing, and also to deliver something which is actually relevantly needed at that moment to cover. And the clear difference is, man has so many things in his mind, and the dog has a clear visibility that what is that, right? So we have to be, at least when we are going to join a session or going to attending a classroom or a workshop or something, that at that moment we have to keep the things out of our mind, other things, and then we have to be fully concentrating and getting into the task for a work. So that is what the management also wants in their teams. Okay. And deliver the things, because always there will be a time to celebrate, the time for enjoyment, all those things. But when you are doing something, please don't get out of that and do something else. Okay. Even though we say that we are multitaskers, but actually brain does only one thing at a time, and we have to be really focused. Otherwise, what is that expected from that meeting may not come out. So it is good to start practicing the mindfulness. And this is a very classic example we have done, and we were also done by somebody in our childhood. And when a kid is thrown in the air, no, it won't cry, right? It enjoys, and it knows, because the father or a mother or whoever is doing that one is going to catch hold of her. And what is that one? That is trust, right? So trust building is very important, and it won't be built overnight, because people, an organization or a managers, we observe and how the person is behaving, what kind of a delivery he is doing, how how integrated with the organizational cultures, how ethical he is, and many more aspects. And the moment that starts coming in, okay, even if you make failure, you make mistakes, those will be exempted, and that is very important. And this trust building culture need to start coming within you guys sooner or later, but it's better to start quicker. So just to summarize the things, change management, we need to adopt change management, because changes are part of the life, and we need to be adapting to the changes as and when they come. Collaborate with, the more we collaborate, that is a better. And while collaborating, you need to be more agile. You have to do the cycles in a quicker manner, and come up with a small incremental changes, rather than waiting for a one big change after 4 years. And if that is not going to work, then that is a problem. So rather than that, make quicker changes and quicker failures if required, but get on back to the work. Boldness is the thing where you should be learn to be bold in terms of your work ethics and work culture and work related activities. Okay, something you feel that you are damn sure that that is how we should do, and you are sitting in a team meeting or some meeting, and you should express, you should stand up and express that idea. Okay, and whether the other side of the team accepts or not is a next question. But if you are not saying that, if you are not opening up, and if you are not bold enough to say what is there in your mind, then it's going to affect you. So be bold, and express. The thing is, like, these are other points, like use the assets available with the organization or your education systems, and proper use and learn the new things. Be innovative, and keep generating the ideas, because innovation won't come overnight. Ideation comes first, lot of ideas, then they get into funnel, and something will come out later based on those ideas to scrutinize, and only few ideas will be picked up to a kind of a pilot related activity, and then into a kind of a commercialized solution later. So bring your innovativeness in whatever you guys want to do later. Yeah, and slowly expand your scope, because in the end, as a person, we want to get into technical roles initially, then into a kind of a functional roles, and then into a kind of a managerial roles. So technical skills, functional skills, and behavioral skills all will play a kind of a key roles. And as a human being, personality will keep growing, and you guys also need to look into these aspects while growing. And personality growth or a behavioral growth is one of the key aspect when any institute, any companies try to pick up, and they do a lot of psychometric tests. Okay, how we behave in those states. Same question they ask in 4 different ways, and the way we answer them will also tell that whether he is bluffing or he is really telling what he is, what is his attitude. Everything will come out of those kind of a psychometric tests. So you have to master that and grow towards that one, and keep practicing. Success and failures will be there, but in the end, it all helps you in the long run. So with that, I'm going to end. So I hope you guys understood or at least gathered some points from my side. And have a great day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your presentation. I have one question for you. That question is, what are the challenges that a person will face when he works in foreign land in early stages of the career?
Can you repeat that, or what are the challenges?
What are the challenges faced by an individual when he goes to foreign land when he's in early stage of his career?
Yeah, so see, usually when somebody is going into a foreign land, the HR departments of those companies in India, they make sure that they put them into a kind of a initial training of 15 days, 1 month on the how the culture will be, how you should talk, how you should approach um, um, the business and also the general public there. Even though that is a training, but actually you are one, the moment you land in, right, you are actually going to face that practically, right? So that is where I'll highlight a couple of examples, right? First challenge is what you have to get your immigration cleared, okay? Because in the end, that is the first step to enter any country, whether it is a US or a Europe or something. And at that moment, how you behave, okay? So usually we'll have a proper visa and documentation. You should be very clear that where you are going, which location, who has called you. And in a very simple English, we have to explain in a slow manner, because some people understand our English accent, some won't understand. The moment whatever we tell, they actually they have all the data related to that. They verify in their system and they let us go out, okay? And that is the first thing, like we have to handle the immigration. That is the the moment you handle the immigration, the second step, even before getting out of the airport, will come to you is your the baggages, okay? And as a Indians, we carry a lot of spicy items and others food items and all. This is not for the business tourists who are going on 1 week, 2 week, but I'm talking more from the guys who are going to go and work there for 1 year or 6 months, 3 months kind of a thing. You have to get your baggages smoothly out, in the sense, like if you have bought something, you should disclose, and if they ask, you have to disclose. Otherwise, you have to just walk through the green channel. But if they ask and don't, if you say you are not carrying anything, that is not the right way, because anyway they know what is there in the bags. So accept and move on. That is the thing. Now, the third thing comes up. Assume that that you reached your hotel and all those things. The next thing is the law, local law, where as a business visa or as a permit. Okay, so what are the government rules you need to know, and if there is a government like going on a work permit, then they need to get a kind of a social security. In US it is called social security. Similarly, there is something in the Europe also. So you need to start that process activity, because two things happens. One is like the local police need to be informed that the foreign consultant has come in. First thing, that will be done by your company, but still you need to make sure that your company does that one, and you have to take that local authority help, your company help, to get you to a kind of a registration process. Okay. So then the accommodation kind of a thing. So these are the things where you have to take the administrative help or the HR department help in your countries. Now the induction in the office, okay. The start. Usually nowadays, that barrier is not there. He has come from outside and all those things. So so that people know from where he is coming, and they also know like from which city you are coming, and they talk a few lines about your Mumbai or Pune or Chennai. So similarly, like they try to make you more accommodative compared to the earlier days when I used to work in Europe and US. Okay, so that is a good thing. But get into the kind of a small interactions with them by introduction, but never get into a kind of a discussion of personal life or a family discussions. Okay. and that should not at all done. Okay, they talk commonly about how is the weather today, is was, have you had your marathon, and those things only to be initially, unless and until he's a very close friend of you. So that is the thing, and very disciplined working culture, in the sense they work in a very systematic way, like they have a process defined and they like to work in a process, that way only. So we need to stick to that process, and explain that what you understood, what you are going to do, what you did at the end of the day, and hand it over to them and come back. Okay. And usually what happens is, if they gave a target of 30 days, for example, okay, till whatever you are saying, they will say, okay, very good, and all those things. But on the 29th day, if you say that nothing has been happened on the development front, or the work package you are supposed to deliver, they will become wild. Okay. And that is where you start losing the trust. And if that incident happens 2-3 times, no, usually what happens is, as a customer, we expect to replace that candidate. Okay, we say that, okay, this guy is very good, but somehow he is not trying to understand what we want, so why don't you replace this consultant with another consultant. Okay, so that damages at two levels, right? One is like that, as an individual, that guy may have to come back. Okay, he will lose his reputation. On the other side, the company which was supposed to deliver and which has to make money because of that, they will also suffer, and they will also lose a kind of a face in that one. So we need to understand some of these aspects. There will be many more, but I think what we say, we should commit and we should deliver. Okay. That is more important.
Thank you so much, sir, for your presentation, for sharing a culture of different industry sectors, and for discussing the challenges that